Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk. Tackling the stigma.
I do hope you're well. Welcome back to another edition of Mental Health Monday. It's that time of the week where we talk about mental health issues in an open and honest way. Lots moving on the show today. We've got a special guest in the studio. Plus, we're going to be hearing all about the Mad Pride event, which is coming to Liverpool this weekend. It's all about reclaiming words like mad and nutter for people within the mental health community. We'll get the theory around it as well with Claire Stevens from the Liverpool Mental Health Consortium. But the Mad Pride event and all the details about that on the way. If you've got a story or you want to get involved in Mental Health Monday yourself, absolutely drop us an email at mick@radiocity.co.uk. That's mick@radiocity.co.uk, or you can tweet in at Radio City Talk. First and foremost, though, I've got a guest in the studio who's going to tell us about his organisation and an event which is taking place in the city of Liverpool next week as part of a build-up to the Grand National Festival. And, my guest in the studio has got one name, but he's also got a different name through which he is known. So Colm Farrell, as you'd be known, in the studio, and you've got another name that you would be known by from people who know you.
Yeah, Mick, most people call me Haz, but either or either, it doesn't really matter.
Haz as in...
It's short for hazard.
Hazard.
It's a long story.
Well, I was going to say, is it a story suitable for the radio?
No, not really.
Let's make sure we can hear you nice and clear on,
okay.
on that microphone. There's a great story about, obviously, why you're doing this event. It's all about Stamp Out Suicide, a charity and organisation that you set up. But it's come about in the strangest of ways, hasn't it? Based on a conversation in a pub.
Yeah, actually, this event in Liverpool next week, yes.
Yeah.
Myself and my partner Maria, we were going to a concert in Nottingham last year, and a friend of mine from home, he happened to know some people that were out for the night there in Nottingham, Peter Murray and his family, and they're from Liverpool, but we went to the concert and it was just so packed we said we'd leave, and we met Peter anyway, and we started chatting, and he said to me, he said, we could do something to help you raise funds for Stamp Out Suicide in Liverpool. So himself and his brother Steve and Joe Nordoff and John Neld and a few more lads, they got together and they ran a preview night for Cheltenham in Pogue Mahone's Bar, and they raised over £1,000 for us. And then Ciara Rafferty behind the counter, she said, well, I'll do a bungee jump, and she raised another 1,000. And ever since that, the lads have been great support to Stamp Out Suicide. They've been really, really very good, and the people of Liverpool have been fantastic. So they've decided that they're going to do another event on the 5th of next month in St George's Hall, and it's a preview night for the Grand National. And we hope to get a good crowd there, and it will be a good night, and there's a few jockeys attending and, giving their views on what goes on for the races and all that,
Absolutely. So this is one of these nights that you can have where you can go down and people try and give you a heads up as to who might have the best horse.
Correct,
and who's the best jockey, and then you listen to none of them, or you listen to all of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you have a better accordingly. Mm-hmm. But all the money is going towards Stamp Out Suicide. Mm-hmm. So, and this is your organisation. Just tell us about why you set up Stamp Out Suicide.
Stamp Out Suicide was set up in June of 2015. It was after I completed a walk of the UK raising awareness about suicide. And from my own experience, I met a lot of families who were bereaved by suicide, but I also met numerous people who had survived suicide attempts. And each and every one of those people had said to me that the biggest problem they had afterwards was the actual care and access to counselling. And it could be for numerous reasons. They might be living in a rural area and wouldn't have transport to get to a town or city. Waiting lists are quite long. And I was just talking one night with Maria, and we were talking about it, and we were saying, well, maybe if we set up a phone line service which will be accessible to anybody within the UK. So we've done a bit of research into it, and we said, this could work. So we got a few people together and set up a board of trustees, and we launched it in August of that year, of 2015. And to date now we have 9 counsellors who all volunteer their time with us. They're all fully accredited counsellors. And how it works is, if somebody is having a suicidal thought, they can contact us on our number here, which is 077-66808-222. And basically, if they just send us a text message, to say that they need someone to talk to or whatever, we will make contact with that person within a very short period of time, minutes usually, and we will talk with them, and we will offer them our support. And if they are prepared to accept a counsellor, we will organise one of our counsellors then to make contact with the person in question and they will have weekly counselling of 45 minutes each week for up to a maximum of 18 weeks.
And that's obviously a huge commitment that you've made to helping people like this. Why do you feel so passionately about making sure that you've got that connectivity, that you've got somebody who can be on a phone within, as you say, minutes of somebody first sending a text message?
Well, Mick, to be honest with you, from my own experience at home in Ireland, I come from a town called Tuam in County Galway, and going back 7 or 8 years ago, maybe a bit longer, there was quite a few suicides in my area. And, a small town, I would have known each person very, very well. And at the time, I just found, why isn't there something been done about this? So I decided to do a walk around Ireland to raise awareness about suicide in Ireland. And it took me a few months to do it anyway. The whole aim was to walk through every county and get attention. And we did. We got lots of, radio attention and people talking about what we were doing. And there was a centre set up then in my own hometown. And but when I was coming to the end of the Irish walk, I was getting messages from people right across the UK through Facebook and Twitter. And they were saying to me, "Hey, Haz, why don't you come across the pond and do the same thing here?" And I'm looking at the map of the UK and I'm thinking, God, that's an awful long walk, to do all these counties. But anyway, I decided, one day, I just put a post up on Facebook with a map of the UK and a line where I thought I may walk to, which was almost 5,000 miles. And the response I got was just unbelievable from people that I didn't even know. So I said, well, to hell with it, let's go and do it. So I started up in Scotland in Wick on the 24th of July 2013 and just made my way each day through different towns and villages, walking with my rucksack on my back and putting posts on Facebook and Twitter saying I need a plank for the night, which was a place to sleep.
Yeah.
And every single night of the over 300 nights I was on the road, somebody contacted me and said, you can stay here tonight. Or there was different people in that may have sometimes things got a bit tight late at night. Somebody'd ring up and say, listen, we've you booked into a hotel, whatever, And just the response of people was fantastic.
The echoes of your own experience of Ireland hit home, I understand, when you got to the Humber Bridge, when you had a police cordon. You were effectively stopped on your journey by a police officer saying you can't go any further because there was somebody thinking about a suicide attempt on the bridge over the River Humber.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, as you're probably aware, it's a very long and a very high bridge, and it was a very cold day. And I'm walking across the bridge because there's a footway kind of below the level of the road. And I'm walking along there, and I'm about halfway across, and I seen a lot of police officers in the distance, and I could see like a person. I didn't know whether it was a man or a woman, and they were standing on the edge of the bridge. Now I couldn't even tell if they were on the other side, to the far side or not. But anyway, the police just stopped me and they said you can't move from there, and I couldn't go back because the other end closed off. So I was basically stuck on the bridge for 2 hours. But I have to say, the police in question, they've done a fantastic job because they did talk that person down off the bridge and got them to a safe place and got them help and all that. But it was a frightening experience at the time, yeah.
And a real reminder of why you were going about your journey as well. We talk a lot about the stigma around mental health. We talk about stigma, though, a huge stigma in regard to suicide. Not only for people who take their own life for whatever reason, how the family then deals with it and how society reacts to it, but also those people who might attempt suicide, and the phrase that gets used is they fail. It's a failed suicide attempt, and the use of language is really key around suicide, isn't it? When we talk about about suicide as something which people go through.
Well, for example, and you just said it there yourself, and I tend to say it myself a lot of the time, and I try not to, is actually commit suicide. The actual commit itself, that word commit makes it sound like a crime. I'd rather say like if a person took their own life. But people that have survived suicide attempts, from my experience, the ones that I've spoken to, and there are numerous, every single person that I've spoken to have told me that they did not want to die at that point in time. They did not want to die, but they could not feel any other option but to take their own life. And fortunately for them, they didn't succeed, and they're here with us today,
Presumably, in terms of Stamp Out Suicide, when you get the counsellors in and you get people talking, you're looking to get people back to a stable foundation in life. How possible is that? Because sometimes people will feel when they are at the lowest of the low that there's no way back. There's no way back to, quote, normality. They'll never feel, quote, normal ever again. It's quite a task, isn't it, to say to somebody, those feelings that you had on that particular day were how you felt on that day. In 6 months' time, you might feel different. In a year's time, in 10 years' time, you might be a completely different person.
Absolutely, yeah. It does pass, And And that's what the counsellors are there for. That's what they're professionally trained to do, And, the counsellor and the client work together. And it is a slow process and it takes work, But at the end of the day, if the client works, gives it the effort, they will come out the better end at the end of the day,
In terms of the support that you get as you've been going out on your journeys, is that something which is gathered across different areas? Have you found that maybe some parts of the country are better prepared for dealing with these situations? Obviously, a lot's been made about government funding cuts and so on and so forth. Have you found certain areas that are getting it right when it comes to mental health?
I don't know. I couldn't really answer that one. I'm not quite sure, really. Because it's such a big issue and it is everywhere, and it comes knocking on everybody's door. It's not just something that's down to one particular part of society. This can affect anybody, and it does. And when it does, it leaves a trail of destruction behind,
Because I was going to ask you, the sort of people who pick up your phone, I guess if you every single day it was people from Cornwall, you'd be thinking, there must be something in particular in Cornwall. But is there a type of person who calls the numbers? Are they from a certain background? Do they have a certain, wage income? Are they from a certain class? Is it men or women?
Well, yeah, men account for 78% of all suicides within the UK and Ireland, and then the age group is between 18 and 45. That is the highest age group. And it is actually the biggest killer of men in the UK. That is the biggest killer, which is hard to believe.
And that's something that you see reflected in terms of the calls?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, yeah. More women attempt suicide than men, but more men die by suicide than women. And the reason for that is because a woman will go for a less violent method of ending your own life, which at the end of the day, you will more likely be saved.
Right. It's a hugely complex issue, isn't it? And there's so much almost like unknown about it. The event that you've got at St George's Hall next week, this is Wednesday evening, and it's a Grand National preview event. So anyone going down there won't be thinking, this is going to be speeches about mental health, and people might have their own preconceptions about that. This one will be about how to enjoy yourself and celebrate a race day.
Absolutely,
come Grand National Day.
It's a night out. It's a night of entertainment. People talking about the day at the Grand National. Yes, I will say a few words about what we're there for, but at the end of the day, it's a night out, a night of enjoyment, but at the same time, we have to make people aware of what we do,
Absolutely. Fundraising as well, so is it a case of tickets on the door? Have you got auctions and things like that halfway through?
We have a couple of auctions going on and a raffle going on, and things like that.
Any prizes you can tell us about?
Off the top of my head, I know there's a framed picture with A.P. McCoy on his Grand National winning horse. There's 10 tickets to the Greyhound racing in Manchester, I think it is. That's for 10 tickets and 10 free pints and 10 programmes. That's one of the prizes as well. Yeah, there's numerous prizes, absolutely numerous prizes on the night, yeah.
Good stuff. And it's happening next week. Where can people find out more information about things like tickets so that they can get involved?
Well, they can contact me on 07468 491 587. Or Peter Murray, Joe Nordoff. I think you have all their contact details.
Yeah, what we'll
anyway.
do is if people want to get involved in the event, then they can get in contact with us. I'll write your number down as well. Yes. We'll get it up on our social media if people want to get involved as well. And in terms of your experts, the people who are going to be giving the rundown of the Grand National as well, are they well briefed?
Oh, God, yeah. I think it's Carl Llewellyn is there, and he's ridden 2 winners of Grand Nationals. And obviously, Joe Nordoff from Time Form, he's an absolute expert. He knows his stuff. And there's a couple of more lads, and John Neld is the MC for the night, and he puts on a great show. He's fantastic, he's a great entertainer as well,
And how important is it that something as mainstream as the Grand National can, bring something like, suicide to people's perceptions? Because no one would, think Grand National suicide. No one would draw the link. But it just goes to show that mental health issues now are becoming something associated with things that happen in the mainstream.
Oh, yeah, for example, when we done the Cheltenham preview night in Pug Mahone's a couple of weeks back, and it was a fantastic night, but there was people there that actually contacted me after the night that wanted more information, for people that knew that may be in that situation. So because everybody will know somebody that may be in that situation but don't know how to address it. They don't know what to do. Like, for example, if you thought somebody was thinking of taking their own lives, you probably wouldn't know what to do. But the most important thing to do is actually to ask that person, are they having suicidal thoughts? Because it's an absolute fact that 90% of people will actually tell you the truth if they are. And then the next step is, well, what do? You offer them support. And then when you offer them the support, and you maybe ask them, well, who do you think could you trust to talk about this with, and maybe a family member or whatever, and then you refer them to somebody like us that can help them, So it's all about support and helping each other,
And as an organisation, you're not affiliated with any authorities or anything like that? You're an independent and confidential service?
Independent, confidential, yeah. Everything that goes on is strictly confidential. It's just between the client and the counsellor. I mean, nothing goes past there at all. From once the call comes through to us, it's passed on to a counsellor, and that's all kept private. Nobody would ever know anybody's business.
There's loads of information about Stamp Out Suicide online. There's plenty of information as well about Haz on there too, and some of his journey. If you actually type in your name, every single independent regional newspaper has told your story as you've gone along. You can almost track it, sort of followed it down the country. Haz, thank you for your time. St George's Hall, Wednesday the 5th of April, and we've got the contact details as well, but we'll put them on our social media too.
Can I just say one more thing? We have a thing called Lifeline, where we're looking for companies maybe to sponsor one of our phone lines. So if any companies in the Liverpool area would be interested in just sponsoring a phone line for a year, and it's £240 for a year, but that £240 could potentially save a life.
Brilliant stuff, and we'll get all that information in terms of your contact details or your social media up on our social media as well, and hopefully people can get in contact with you too. Haz, thank you for your time. Best of luck with you next Wednesday. Really appreciate you coming on, and best of luck as well with your organisation.
Thanks very much,
Stamp Out
Mick.
–
Suicide.
Radio City Talk. Tackling the stigma.
OK, so we're going to touch on now an event which is taking place this coming Sunday. That's the 2nd of April, and it's all in regard to mental health. It's all part of the Threshold Festival, which is taking place right across the weekend here in Liverpool. And the event is called Mad Pride. Mental health very much on the agenda with this one. Claire Stevens from the Liverpool Mental Health Consortium joins us on the programme. Claire, thank you for your time. The word mad is one of those words which, when we started doing the Mental Health Monday show, people were going, be careful with your language around mad. We had somebody on episode 1 of Mental Health Monday talking about referring to somebody as a nutter. There's a lot of language you've got to be aware of when you're talking about mental health, and that's really the theme behind Mad Pride, isn't it?
It is. Mad Pride started in Canada some time ago now, and it's spread across the world. And I guess the clue is in the title slightly that it's inspired by the gay pride movement, and it's about reclaiming language that's been used against you in a sort of derogatory fashion. It's about standing up against stigma and saying, yeah, we are here and we've got nothing to be ashamed of. Most of us have had some experience of a mental health problem or difficulty or times of mental distress in our lives, or if we haven't, we're likely to have in the future. And we all know people who struggle with their mental health, whether it's family members, friends, partners, that sort of thing. So it's really important to say we are a part of society and our community, and we can have fun too, and we can be creative people too. Just because we experience problems or we have some sort of diagnosis, it's nothing to be worried about. Yeah,
and in turn, we'll talk about some of the great things that are going to be happening as part of Mad Pride 2017. It's all happening as part of this year's Threshold Festival. Language is a key thing, isn't it? Because you know, doing this as a job, you find yourself treading a very thin line occasionally, because you want to talk in a way which people understand, but then often phrases which people have used as a normal phrase for their entire lives, they suddenly find out that they're not appropriate anymore. A good example would be the phrase to commit suicide. Mm-hmm. And there's a huge number of people now suggest, well, actually, you commit adultery, you commit a sin. Committing suicide is almost a biblical reference.
Yeah, it's quite archaic.
Yeah, and it's not something that we would necessarily take forward. Other people would think, oh, can I not talk about committing suicide anymore? You find that balance there. You've got to strike the balance right to make sure that people feel like they're not being, censored. They feel still open and able to talk about it, but using the right language.
Yeah, I think it's important. And all of us make mistakes from time to time. And I think it's fine to say, I'm not sure if I'm using the right language, but this is what I mean. And someone else will then either say, well, I'm fine with you using that, but other people might not be. Or, well, the reason I've got a problem with that is this, but thanks for bringing up the subject. I think we both need to be open when we're having conversations, or we all need to be open when we're having conversations about this, and accept that we might not always get the language right. But if we approach things in the right spirit and say, well, I'm sorry if I upset you with that, but I'll learn.
Absolutely, because of course the worst thing would be people think, I want to talk about mental health, but I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing, and therefore I won't talk about mental health.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to talk about it, and we all learn as we go along, and language and culture changes all the time. So, don't be afraid to raise questions and ask things, but also by the same token, don't be afraid if people then say, well, I'd rather you didn't use that language. Because
I've got the examples here of, mad and nutter. The thing because mental health is such a big thing, I think there's every chance, Claire, the people who've been using that language may have also been people who've been affected by mental health themselves.
Yeah.
We're all guilty of using this sort of language, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us say, oh, that thing that happened to me today was completely mad, and we do it without even thinking about it. But I think madness is a thing. It's okay to talk about it. I think what Mad Pride tries to do is to say there are reasons for it. A lot of people experience mental distress because of the social conditions that they live in, or the society that they live in, or pressures that they're facing. It's not necessarily intrinsic to them that they're mad. I've heard it said many times that madness is a sane reaction to an insane world. So there's lots of reasons for it.
And I think people can say, oh, that was a mad situation. But equally, and then, people might say that quite innocently, but equally, people might dismiss somebody as being just a nutter.
Yeah.
Who's that? Oh, just a nutter.
Yeah.
And actually, that might have been, that's actually somebody who's got a really serious mental health condition. But what you're doing is you're going, nutter, you're sectioning them off yourself in your own mind, and you're sort of casting the problem onto somebody else, the next person down the line, if you like.
Yeah, and it's very easy to do that. And again, I'm sure we've all been guilty of doing it from time to time. And it's often only when it touches us directly, or it's someone that we know, that we suddenly realise, actually, that could be you or me very easily, and we're all just a couple of steps away from that if things go badly wrong for us or against us.
Now there's lots of things going on at Liverpool. This is the 2nd of April. It's as part of the Threshold Festival, which is ongoing. It's at Constellations at the Baltic we used to call it Baltic Triangle Quarter area region. It's becoming absolutely huge, isn't it, as a destination in Liverpool. Just tell us about some of the things which people will see and hear when they head down there.
Okay, this is sort of, in Liverpool, this has become a kind of little sister to the Liverpool Mental Health Festival, which happens every October, and we think it's kind of the slightly rebellious younger sister, if you like. So it's all about arts and creativity. There's going to be bands, there's going to be samba. Liverpool School of Samba will be kicking it off at 2:00 with loads of drumming, walking up to Constellations. Then we've got a sort of soapbox on stage where people can get up and have a rant, do some poetry, slightly like a poetry slam. People will be performing poetry about their own situations and experiences. We've got bands like the brilliantly named Hardcore Hornography, who are sort of a New Orleans-style brass band, jazz band. We've got the Live Kennedys, who are kind of folk duo. Daisy Gill, brilliant young local singer. CF Boneslum, who's a fantastic kind of one-man band, brilliant bluesy guy. Cadence Noir, who are a sort of gothic folk band. And then we've got the amazing Katoomba and Bring the Fire Project, who are going to be drumming and doing fire performances in a parade which will happen between 8 and 9 through the Baltic Triangle. But also during the day we've got films showing, mask making, a graffiti wall. We've got Freefall Circus performing, and we've got our friends from PSS Umbrella Centre, the Brolly Good Show, doing some sort of pop-up theatre performances.
It's fair to say there's loads going on.
Oh, yeah.
The Mad Pride event is free. Skiddle has got all the information for Threshold Festival as a whole if people want to find out some more information. But if there's anywhere else, Claire, that people need to go, then do.
Yeah,
give that a mention.
They can look on the Mad Pride Facebook page if you just look on Facebook for Mad Pride. Also, can I just do a quick shout-out as well to Threshold for letting us be part of this for the second year. It's great to work with them. And also Zest Event Management and Nikki there, who's been absolutely brilliant in organising this. And to all the other Mad Prides across the world, so in Toronto, in Paris, there's an Irish one. There's one in the Netherlands, and we're all sort of in touch with each other, so it's a global movement.
Fantastic. And you mentioned that things like the poetry slam, people will be doing their own poetry, talking about their own mental health, but presumably if there is a drum show and, lanterns and torches, that's not necessarily a direct mental health thing, but presumably it's about, mindfulness, it's about people finding enjoyment in a relatively simple thing, some boys and girls playing drums. Yeah,
it's about, these are all the things that keep us well. It's really important to have fun and to go out and be part of a community and not to be isolated. So this is an opportunity to bring people together, to have a good time. I think there's still a lot of misconceptions about sort of mental health, that it's impossible to have a good time or to be creative. But it can be a real catalyst for creativity, and so many great artists have had their own struggles with mental health, obviously, across all sort of artistic mediums. So, come together, have fun, celebrate ourselves and celebrate well-being, because that's the other side of mental health.
Absolutely it is. Claire, thank you for your time today. We wish you all the best with the Mad Pride event. Like I say, it throws up that conversation, which I think I've been really keen to have on the programme, because it is one of those things where people go, just so you know, we are talking about this, but be careful when you use this sort of language. And I've always kind of been a little bit, in many ways, I've wanted to have that as an open conversation. Because I think it's quite important to hear people making the mistakes and saying, actually, when you said that, the intonation in your voice or what the implied meaning of that particular phrase is X, Y, and Z. So instead we use that. Because I think providing people with the alternatives is a really good way of doing it. I think
that's very important. It's really important not to just be critical or put people down, because that's not good for their mental health either. We need to think about that.
So it's reclaiming terms such as mad, nutter from misuse, and you can get all that and speak to people like Claire and the organisers from Mad Pride. It's happening at this weekend's Threshold Festival. That's the 2nd of April at the Constellations venue down at the Baltic. Claire Stevens from Liverpool Mental Health Consortium, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Radio City Talk, tackling the stigma.
Yeah, so check out one or both of those events, and thanks to our guests on Mental Health Monday this week. Has mentioned his number if you want to get involved in the tickets for the event taking place as a Grand National preview, all in support of Stamp Out Suicide, 07468 491 587. That's 07468 491 587. And you can obviously listen to that again via the podcast. The Stamp Out Suicide hotline number, if you want to call that, 07766 808 222. 07766 808 222. Stamp Out Suicide. And the Liverpool Mental Health Consortium, our special guest this week on Mental Health Monday. It's back next week. If you want to get involved in the show, drop us an email, mick@radiocity.co.uk. Maybe you're from an organisation, or maybe you've got personal experience when it comes to mental health. Get involved. If you've got a story to tell, we can help you tell it here on Radio City Talk. mick@radiocity.co.uk is the email address. And Mental Health Monday returns next week.
Radio City Talks Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.